Yeah, all right. Yeah, so us versus them, that that whole philosophy of us versus them. I grew up in a world where people were always differentiating between whether it's the color or the people, even the languages that people spoke. It's just like creating one division after another, and and that us versus them mentality is being introduced all over the place. Even if you join a hockey team or a baseball team, or it's always us versus them. So it's just like it's being uh, totally always being reinforced that this is the way that we should think. And even in my efforts, when I first made a decision to try and understand, because I looked at it as our Anishinaabe view on toward life, that I was telling myself I want to learn the Anishinaabe perspective through the customs that have been passed on. But I realized right away that wasn't how I needed to think. I was shown that we have to encompass everything around us, that we're the same, not just as human beings, but other beings that cohabitate this earth with us. And when I was able to bring myself to that place, and it was challenging, it was even scary, because most of my life I identified myself as a Anishinaabe, as Ojibwe, and to take pride in that, and challenge the world from that perspective as an Ojibwe, and I had to shed that, because that concept comes from the world of ego. So I had to let it go, that I'm a human being that's been placed on this earth, and I have to try and understand my relationship to all things, and my family and my friends, and it wasn't like I didn't know that's where I needed to go. I was still very much in that ego state of mind. I was still very much in the us versus them belief. And that first dream that I mentioned started me thinking about what I had adopted as a reality in my life, and what I needed to do to change, and just what I was being shown, and as I was completing my fast, I soon realized that I had to let that perspective go. And when I was confronted with that idea, initially I thought I would become lost. I thought I'd become lost and not know who I am, because my whole identity from the time I was born was to see myself as an Ojibwe, and to see myself being different. Almost every institution uh, that I went to, whether it was residential school or public school, right into other to college and those institutions, really were highlighting the differences in those people. So in people, whether it is based on where you come from or where you were born, the language you speak, all those things. So my whole being was based on those things. So it's just challenging and a scary thought to let it go. And there's times even today where I find myself falling into that trap of us versus them. And I just have to step back to whether it's the tobacco that helps me to bring myself to a different place where I know we're all connected. And I think of that song. Many of the songs that I sing help me get to that place. It's almost like the astronauts, what happens to them when they go up and look at the earth from the moon, that how small we are here, and there's such a greater picture out there that we need to connect to, that we're finding separation in that little speck from the size of a quarter when the astronaut looks at it from the earth, and how they need to change that view. So the song brings me to that, especially that last song that I sang talks about those anishinaabe and how these spiritual beings are not just here in this particular setting, that they can go up into the universe and view the world from that perspective. So it took, to me, it was a continuous challenge, and I know it feels a lot different. It feels a lot better when you're able to see yourself connected to everything. I believe that every little disconnect that we allow to come into our thoughts, we pull ourselves further away from that loving creator, and all of a sudden we're limiting ourselves as to how good we're going to feel, even as to how much impact that we're going to have, whether it's just our own objectives as to what we like, to the kind of world that we want to create there. And when you go to that broader view, you know that your chances of success are a much greater level that they're moving across. And I've always, through the many ceremonies, I've been reminded of that, whether it's in the sweat lodge or at the powwow, being open to the teachings and information that comes from all directions, and to open your thoughts and your minds, not just to the earth, but to the universe. Everything that we see when we look up into the sky, and even going beyond what we can see, and trying to connect with those things. So those avenues are a great way for me to bring myself into that, into where I'm connected. I don't have to go too deep into those things because as I see the faces here, many of you know what I'm talking about and have experienced those things, whether it is in the sweat lodge ceremony or through those different avenues of making that connection. But the challenge is always there. And every time I'm addressing something, I have to really take a look at whether I'm coming from that place, from us versus them. How do I move it to a different place, to a broader place, rather than continue to reinforce those us versus them thought process that is all over the place. So I'm just going to briefly read some of the things that I've written down, and also go into some of the suggestions as to how to for releasing from that us versus and them thinking. So when you know you are connected to others, there is no them. When you lose our sense of us versus them, you know that we are all us. Then we have a win-win relationship with life. So that win-win relationship really becomes magnified when you're able to take yourself to that place where you're connected to all things. So these are some of the suggestions for releasing from that thinking. Number one, practice letting go of our ego's need to be separate from others. Begin viewing yourself as a member of the human family called us. So rather than whether it's gender or race or language, we get rid of those things and go to that place where you say us as a human family, that we have a challenge in front of us. Number two, treat everyone as if they are part of the tribe you love to belong to. So today, I'd like to believe that since the beginning of time, human beings have been evolving, and that's the challenge. A lot of times they either separate for some reason, but I believe as a whole, human beings are also coming together to see each other in a different light, and we're growing in that way, that we're all. And to me, that's one of the things that helps me to be able to say I'm glad to be having this human experience, and to love my life, to love every minute of it, and not see those things in a negative way, whether it's the encounters that I've had and what I see happening around the world. I believe it's just a part of our growing stage as human beings. And I believe efforts, things like this, whether we come together in Zoom, and one of the legends is as long as one of us is doing it, it goes a long way. And many of the ceremonies also reinforce that what we're doing resonates throughout the universe, that we're raising the conscious level of human beings, not just human beings, but other beings. My wife was telling me she was watching these monkeys and how they raise their young ones, and she was appalled at some of the way the monkeys were treating their babies. Like some of them would just hit them or neglect them and abuse them, and there are some monkeys that really take care of their kids. And I was telling her, sounds like you're talking about human beings. That's the way human beings are. Be appalled at some of the human beings. But again, it goes to how we treat one another. I believe that those influences are also not just human beings need that help, but all living things. We're in the same boat. We come from the same place, and that energy also affects those other living beings on this earth. So, number 3, note how many times you use the pronoun I in an hour. The constant use of I indicates a strong attachment to an us life attitude. I'll read that again because I have a hard time understanding it myself. It says, how many times you use the pronoun I in an hour. The constant use of I indicates a strong attachment to an us life attitude. I. Number 4, think globally rather than locally. Focus on the similarities among us rather than the superficial things that make us appear to be different. Yeah, so those are good suggestions to me. Those are some of the things that I always focus on. So I'm glad that I have avenues like the song I was just singing, that I have opportunities to sit with not just people that are wanting to move in that direction. So I have opportunities. I can go sing in the sweat lodge. I can sing along with people that are they're moving toward that same direction and talking about how they're understanding that whole process, whether it's honoring a drum and all the things it represents. And I know many at different times will focus on whether it's the feathers that are a part of that drum or even the shape of the drum. All those things have a part to play in how we need to look at the world and ourselves and the sweat lodge. So those are, for me, they're all around me all the time. So I'm glad that I'm able to get there. But and again, I just wanted to make sure, like from the time we started, I know some of the concepts of moving away from it. Like for me, And us versus them was a hard concept to swallow, because I wanted to stay where I was comfortable. And when I had that attitude, like I said, I didn't know what was going to happen. And I've been in other sessions where a lot of people will just get scared of that thought and don't even want to go there, and won't even want to hear it or want to listen. That thought is a possibility, and how it can help. And to me, a lot of the things, whether we're looking at forgiving people, working toward forgiveness and seeing everybody in a good way, when you suggest that to people, sometimes they just, because there's so much pain associated with it, they don't even want to go there. They don't even want to begin to think about wanting to forgive people. But to me, if this us versus them thought, when you get to that place, all of a sudden, you know that you have to let go of that resentment that is held, because to me, a lot of people don't really understand how forgiveness works, and it's not a responsibility that we have as human beings. It's the Creator is the only one that can forgive. But that whole process of forgiveness comes through our healing process. It's not a one-time thing. It's not something you can say or do. It's continually working. And this is one of the letting go of this belief gets you to that place where you can finally let it go. Because if you don't, then you're just continuously punishing yourself. It's just like you're putting yourself down by not adopting that particular belief. So miigwech, that's one of the main things I wanted to express here today, how important it is, and how much I appreciate this opportunity, even just to briefly express my views on that us versus them, because I know it's still very strong out there, and people try to identify as a particular group. And the stronger they fight to say, I am this, like I feel that they're only creating problems for themselves when they move in that direction. There's a lot of benefits when I was driving down the road. I was thinking about that us versus them, and thinking, well, I still carry a status card that says from the First Nation. And there's times where I'll pull it out at the store to identify myself as being something different, and then they won't tax me for that. So there's those things that are there, that are put in place to I guess to reinforce that. But so I think, what is that doing to me by continuously using it? Because there's times where I say, no, I don't think I'll bother with it. And there's times where I don't bother with it. I don't pull it out and identify myself as being separate from anything else. But I know those things are there, but they're not a part of my consciousness in terms of how I want to treat people. So me gwach pisinda meg, kanish na kipinske hu inenda meg we get to egg.